Your mind listens. It listens more deeply than you imagine. It hears every word you speak about yourself, every sentence you repeat in silence, every thought you whisper when no one is watching becomes a command. Your mind is not your enemy. It is a mirror that reflects the way you speak to it. If you fill it with doubt, it will doubt you. If you fill it with strength, it will strengthen you. The tone you use when speaking to yourself decides the kind of relationship you build within. And that relationship defines everything. When you constantly tell yourself that you are not enough, that you always fail, that you don't deserve better, your mind absorbs those words like water. It shapes them into reality. You begin to move through life as if those words were truth. Your actions follow your beliefs, and your beliefs follow your words. This is how the chain of creation begins. You speak, you believe, you act, and you become. That's why training the mind to respect you starts with the language you use every single day. The discipline begins in silence. Before the first action, before the first movement, there is thought, and behind thought, there is speech, the inner voice. That voice is your most powerful teacher or your most dangerous critic. Most people don't control it. They let it run wild, feeding it anger, guilt, fear, and weakness. But the mind is not supposed to be led by chaos. It is supposed to be trained, patiently, deliberately, wisely. Positive self-talk is not about pretending. It is not about saying you are perfect. It is about building an honest, respectful tone between you and your mind. When you start replacing self-blame with understanding, when you replace fear with focus, something begins to shift. You start noticing that the mind listens. It becomes calmer. It begins to trust your words. When you say, I can do this, the mind doesn't argue anymore. It prepares. When you say, I will keep going, it starts gathering energy instead of excuses. This is the true meaning of inner respect. It is earned through the way you speak to yourself when nobody is around. Every single morning, the mind wakes up waiting for your instruction. It is like a soldier waiting for its commander. If you command with weakness, the day becomes heavy. If you command with strength, the day bends toward you. Your mind doesn't need perfection. It needs clarity. It needs direction. Speak to it with conviction. Tell it what you want it to do. Guide it like a leader guides his team, with calmness, with authority, and with trust. Training your mind to respect you is a practice, not a moment. It takes time. It takes patience. There will be days when your words feel empty, when your thoughts try to pull you back into old habits. But that's exactly when the training deepens. The more you stay aware of your self-talk, the more control you gain over your emotions, your focus, and your energy. You begin to see that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who commands them. You are the one who decides whether your mind becomes your master or your student. The words you speak internally carry power. The mind doesn't understand jokes, sarcasm, or carelessness the way you think it does. When you tell yourself, I can't, it doesn't laugh. It accepts. When you say, I will try, it hesitates. When you say, I will, it obeys. This is how your mind learns respect, not through force, but through consistent clarity. Speak clearly. Speak truthfully. Speak with discipline. Your words shape the path your mind will walk. To build this kind of self-respect, you must first stop the habit of emotional reaction. The next time you fail, don't curse yourself. Observe. Guide. Tell your mind what to learn instead of what to regret. Replace I am useless with I am learning. Replace I am too late with I am still moving. Each replacement is a brick in the structure of mental respect. Over time, your mind begins to respond differently to challenge, to pain, to uncertainty. It becomes steady, it becomes loyal, it becomes strong. True growth happens when your mind starts to cooperate with your goals, when it no longer resists the hard path, but walks it with you. That is the result of how you speak to it daily. If your words are kind but firm, gentle but clear, the mind will trust you. If your words are cruel and inconsistent, it will fight you. The secret is not to dominate your thoughts, but to educate them, to remind them of purpose, direction, and meaning. The journey of self-respect begins with a single sentence said consciously. When you tell yourself, I respect my path, the mind listens. When you say, I am capable, it begins to search for strength. When you say, I will not stop, it moves in alignment with your will. This is not magic. This is discipline. The discipline of speech that becomes the discipline of mind. Train your mind like you would train a loyal companion through repetition, trust, and example. Speak to it as if it matters, because it does. Every word you send into your own consciousness becomes a seed. Some seeds grow into strength, others into suffering. You decide which one you water. You decide how your mind sees you. The moment you choose to speak with respect, your mind starts learning that respect is deserved. That's where the transformation begins. Respect is not something that appears in your life by accident. It is built quietly inside the mind through discipline. Before anyone in this world learns to respect you, your own mind must. When your thoughts are scattered, weak, and uncontrolled, they do not obey your intentions. They pull you in different directions. One moment you are confident, the next you are lost in doubt. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. It teaches the mind to stay firm, even when emotions try to shake it. The mind is like a wild river. If left untamed, it floods everything. But if guided with strength and patience, it becomes power. Respect begins when you learn to control that current. Every time you stop yourself from feeding a negative thought, you build authority over your inner world. When you silence the urge to complain, when you redirect your focus from fear to clarity, you send a message to your mind, I am in command. That simple act earns respect. People think respect is earned through success or status, but it begins much earlier in the discipline of thought. When your mind tries to drag you into comparison, jealousy, or regret, and you choose to stay present, that is strength. That is you training the mind to follow your direction, not its impulses. Slowly, the mind begins to understand who leads and who follows. It starts respecting the one who guides it with awareness. Every strong person you admire once stood where you stand now, in front of the chaos within. They learned that the battle is not against the world, but against the noise inside their own head. To discipline the mind is to earn your freedom. Freedom from reaction, from confusion, from weakness. It doesn't happen in a day. It happens each time you say to no to what weakens you and yes to what strengthens you. Discipline is a daily decision, not a distant goal. When you catch yourself thinking, I can't, stop. Replace it with, I will find a way. When you hear your inner voice saying, I failed, shift it to, I am learning. These are not empty phrases, they are corrections. Each correction sharpens your inner authority. Each act of awareness polishes your strength. The mind is always listening, always learning. It respects consistency more than passion. So be consistent. Speak with direction. Think with purpose. Discipline is not punishment. It is structure. It is the architecture that allows your strength to grow. Without it, the mind becomes lazy and confused. With it, it becomes sharp and reliable. When you train your thoughts to stay aligned with your goals, you no longer depend on motivation. You depend on stability. And stability gives birth to confidence, a quiet, unshakable confidence that doesn't need noise to prove itself. The mind respects what you protect. If you protect your focus, your mind becomes focused. If you protect your time, your mind becomes organized. But if you allow distractions, complaints, and negativity to dominate, the mind learns to disrespect your commands. It no longer believes what you say because it sees you break your own rules. Discipline is not about being hard on yourself. It's about being honest with yourself. If you want your mind to follow, you must lead by example. There will be moments when you slip. You will lose focus, you will fall into old habits, but those moments are not failure. They are reminders. Each time you return to discipline, you strengthen the connection between your intention and your execution. You show your mind that even after mistakes, you remain the master. That is real strength, not perfection, but persistence. Respect begins the moment your thoughts start to trust your words. When you promise to do something and you actually do it, the mind listens. When you say you will not let fear decide your actions, and you hold that line, the mind begins to align with your will. Every small victory adds up. Every kept promise is a seed of respect planted deep within your consciousness. Over time, those seeds grow into resilience, clarity, and balance. To discipline your mind is to free yourself from the illusions of weakness. The moment you stop reacting to every emotion, you rise above them. The moment you stop feeding doubt, it begins to fade. You start seeing that the mind is not something to fight, but something to guide. It was never against you. It was simply waiting for you to take charge. When you walk through life with a disciplined mind, people around you will feel it. They will notice it in your silence, your posture, your choices. You won't need to demand respect. It will reflect naturally from the stability within you. Because a mind that respects its own thoughts, its own words, its own silence, that mind is unstoppable. Everything begins from within. The outer world only mirrors what the inner world allows. If your thoughts respect you, your actions will follow with precision. And when your actions align with discipline, life begins to move in harmony. This is where true power lives, not in control over others, but in mastery over yourself. Train your mind with patience. Speak with intention. Act with consistency. Over time, the discipline you build will turn into quiet confidence, and that confidence will earn you a kind of respect that no one can take away, not even your doubts. That is the respect born from within. That is the respect that never fades. You cannot grow by punishing yourself. You cannot rise by constantly attacking your own mind. Growth requires guidance, not aggression. The way you speak to yourself decides whether your mind becomes your ally or your enemy. When you speak with cruelty, your mind hides from you. When you speak with understanding, it opens and listens. You must learn to be a teacher to your mind, not a tyrant. A teacher corrects but never destroys. A teacher guides with patience, not with anger. When you make a mistake, the tyrant inside you screams. It calls you useless, lazy, unworthy. It pushes you deeper into guilt and fear. But guilt does not build discipline. Fear does not create growth. What transforms you is awareness, the calm realization of what needs to be changed, and the quiet commitment to do it better next time. When you begin to talk to yourself with wisdom instead of frustration, your entire energy shifts. The voice in your head becomes lighter, clearer, and more supportive. It doesn't mean you become soft. It means you become effective. You stop wasting energy fighting your own thoughts and start using that energy to move forward. The mind does not grow under pressure. It grows under understanding. When you fall, instead of saying, "I failed again," you tell yourself, "This is where I will learn." That small shift changes everything. Self-talk is not just about motivation. It is the art of communication with your inner self. Most people don't realize that their minds are always listening. When you shout at yourself in anger, that energy lingers. It becomes the background noise of your thoughts. Soon, it turns into self-doubt, hesitation, and confusion. But when your words are calm and firm, your mind learns to follow your lead. It learns to trust your voice. It begins to cooperate. That is how respect is built, through the way you treat yourself when things go wrong. Teaching your mind means leading it through both success and failure with the same calmness. Do not celebrate success too loudly, and do not punish failure too harshly. Stay balanced. The mind respects balance. If you lose control in either direction, your mind loses faith in your stability. A good teacher doesn't react emotionally. He observes, he learns, he adjusts. You must do the same with your thoughts. Observe them. Don't react to every emotion that passes through. Let awareness guide you instead of judgment. There is a strength in gentle correction. When you speak to yourself with kindness and authority, your mind feels safe to grow. Safety is not weakness. It is the foundation of focus. The mind cannot evolve under constant attack. It needs clarity, not chaos. When you say, "I forgive myself, but I will not repeat the same mistake," you set the perfect balance. Compassion and responsibility together. That is the language of self-respect. Becoming a teacher to your mind also means being consistent. You cannot teach one thing today and the opposite tomorrow. If your inner dialogue changes with every mood, your mind becomes confused. Discipline is built through repetition, not emotion. Keep your message simple and steady. I am learning. I am improving. I am in control. Say it until your mind begins to believe it. The mind learns slowly, but it never forgets what is repeated with conviction. There is no point in shouting at yourself for what you did not know before. Growth begins when you accept what you were and still decide to become something more. Every day you have the opportunity to teach your mind new behavior, how to stay calm, how to focus, how to return to peace after chaos. These are lessons that build true strength. The stronger your understanding becomes, the less control emotions have over you. Do not mistake understanding for weakness. Being kind to your mind does not mean letting it do whatever it wants. It means you lead it with discipline, but without cruelty. You say no when you must, but without anger. You demand effort, but not perfection. You encourage consistency, not speed. A teacher knows that real change takes time and that time requires patience. The same principle applies to your mind. When you start to speak to yourself like a teacher, the relationship with your inner self transforms. Your thoughts no longer fight against you. They start to align with your purpose. Fear begins to fade because it is replaced by clarity. Guilt begins to dissolve because it is replaced by learning. The mind becomes lighter, and you begin to see that the real power was never about control. It was about communication. Every great transformation begins when you stop treating yourself like a failure and start guiding yourself like a student. The student in you does not need your anger, it needs your guidance. Every mistake you make is a chance to understand yourself better. Every weakness you discover is a chance to strengthen your foundation. This is how true self-growth happens, not through punishment, but through teaching. Speak to your mind with wisdom. Correct it firmly, but gently. Direct it toward progress, not perfection. The more you do this, the more your mind will begin to listen. It will respect your tone. It will follow your command. It will become disciplined, focused, and peaceful. You will no longer need to force yourself to change. The change will happen naturally because your inner dialogue will support it. The mind becomes what you teach it to be. It learns from the way you speak, the words you repeat, and the emotions you attach to them. So teach it with care, train it with patience, guide it with strength. When your mind learns that your voice carries truth and direction, it will stop resisting, it will start serving. And that is when you finally begin to experience real power, the quiet, unshakable power that comes from leading yourself with understanding. What you repeat, you become. The words you say to yourself are not harmless. They are instructions that your mind takes seriously. Every thought, every phrase, every inner dialogue is a command written into the deepest layers of your being. The mind does not distinguish between truth and lie. It only follows repetition. If you keep telling yourself you are weak, it will make you weaker. If you keep telling yourself you are capable, it will build the strength to match that belief. This is the law of repetition, the law that silently shapes who you are becoming every single day. Your mind is built through patterns. Whatever you feed it consistently, it begins to normalize. Say something once, and it passes. Say it 100 times, and it becomes a part of you. This is how identity forms. You are not your thoughts, but your thoughts, repeated over time, create the identity you live with. Most people repeat their pain more than their power. They replay failures, they repeat their fears, they reinforce their doubts. They think they are just expressing emotion, but in truth, they are programming themselves to stay small. Repetition is not just what you say aloud, it is what you allow to stay in your mind. When you wake up and say, "This day will be hard," your mind starts looking for reasons to prove it. When you say, "I can handle this day," your mind begins to collect evidence that supports that belief. Whatever you repeat, your mind will make real. It is loyal to your words. That is why it is your responsibility to choose those words carefully. The same repetition that can destroy you can also rebuild you. This is not about blind positivity. It is about conscious training. Every warrior trains the body through repetition. The same must be done with the mind. Each time you choose to say, I can, instead of I can't, you are not lying. You are teaching. You are teaching your mind what direction to move in. Repetition is how the mind learns endurance. It is how belief is built. When you repeat a new way of thinking long enough, it becomes natural. It stops feeling forced and starts feeling like truth. There is a reason why discipline and self-talk are connected. Without repetition, discipline dies. You cannot build focus, consistency, or strength without repeating the right messages. The mind needs reminders. It forgets easily and drifts into the noise of the world. That is why your repetition must be louder than your distractions. Speak to yourself with determination, not for motivation but for alignment. Each repeated word brings your inner world closer to your outer action. When you tell yourself something negative over and over, it becomes a chain. It binds you. You start expecting failure before even trying. You stop trusting yourself. The voice inside turns into an enemy. But when you begin to repeat strength, clarity, and patience, that same voice turns into a guide. You start hearing support instead of sabotage. Repetition transforms the inner voice from critic to companion. That transformation is where self-respect begins. The mind respects consistency. It listens more to what you repeat daily than to what you say once with emotion. So, when you promise yourself to grow, remind yourself of that promise every morning. When you say you are capable, prove it through consistent repetition, in thought, in word, and in action. The alignment between these three layers creates stability. The more aligned you are, the stronger your self-respect becomes. It is important to remember that repetition works in silence as much as in speech. Even when you are quiet, your mind is repeating something. Pay attention to what it chooses. Are you silently criticizing yourself, or are you silently preparing yourself? Are you repeating defeat, or are you rehearsing determination? You are always repeating something. Make sure it serves your growth. This is how transformation happens, not through a single moment of inspiration, but through thousands of repetitions of the right thoughts. A strong mind is not built in a day. It is built word by word, thought by thought, repetition by repetition. Over time, what was once difficult becomes effortless. Confidence becomes natural. Discipline becomes automatic. Respect becomes the default state of your mind. Every great change starts small. One word, repeated with belief, can move mountains inside you. When you say, I am becoming stronger, you plant a seed. When you say it again tomorrow, you water it. Say it 100 times and roots begin to form. Say it 1,000 times and it becomes who you are. This is how repetition creates reality. It is not about convincing yourself. It is about creating yourself through consistency. Many people waste this power without realizing it. They repeat their weaknesses until they become habits. They repeat excuses until they become limitations. They say, I am tired, I can't focus, I always fail, and their mind obeys. But when you take control of that repetition and replace it with direction, I am improving, I will endure, I am focused, the mind obeys that too. It begins to adapt to the new rhythm you create. The key is awareness. Be aware of the words that echo inside you. Do not let the mind repeat old stories that keep you small. Interrupt them with clarity. Replace them with strength. Every time you replace a weak repetition with a strong one, you reclaim a piece of your power. Over time, the voice inside becomes clear, stable, and confident. It starts speaking the language of growth, not fear. Your life is a reflection of what your mind has been repeating for years. Change the repetition, and you change the reflection. Speak words that build, not break. Choose repetition that serves your purpose, not your pain. And when your mind begins to respect your words, you will feel it in your actions, your focus, and your peace. The power to transform has always been there, hidden in what you say to yourself every single day. Repeat strength until it becomes your nature. Repeat focus until it becomes your identity. Repeat respect until your mind knows it can trust you completely. The mind does not respect words that are not backed by action. It listens, but it waits for proof. Every time you make a promise to yourself and fail to keep it, a small crack appears in your inner trust. That crack widens with every broken commitment until your words lose all meaning. You say you will change, but the mind no longer believes you. You say you will wake early, train harder, stay focused, but your actions betray your words. The mind watches quietly, and it learns that your commands are empty. Respect cannot grow in the soil of inconsistency. It grows only where words and actions move together. When your mind sees you act on what you say, something powerful happens. It begins to obey. It begins to follow without resistance. It starts trusting your direction because it knows you mean what you say. The strongest people are not those who talk about discipline. They are the ones who live it. They do not need to convince themselves with endless motivation because their consistency has already earned their mind's loyalty. A word backed by action becomes law within you. Every small act matters. If you promise to meditate for 5 minutes and you do it, your mind takes note. If you decide to stop complaining and you truly stop, your mind notices. These small victories become evidence, and this evidence builds belief. The more evidence you give your mind that your words hold truth, the more respect it gives back. It's not the size of your goals that changes you, it's the honesty behind your actions. You must learn to see every commitment as sacred. Even the smallest promise to yourself carries weight. When you break it, it's not just time you lose, it's strength. Every time you let yourself slip, you weaken your internal authority. The mind becomes doubtful. It starts ignoring your guidance because it has learned that you don't mean what you say. But when you do what you said you would do, even when it's hard, the mind aligns. It listens, it sharpens, and it follows. There is a quiet power in integrity. Integrity is doing what you said you would do, long after the feeling that made you say it has faded. Most people act only when they feel inspired. But growth doesn't come from feeling, it comes from commitment. When you act despite resistance, when you follow through even in discomfort, you send a signal to your mind, I can be trusted. That signal changes everything. It becomes the foundation of self-respect, and self-respect becomes the fuel for every transformation that follows. The mind respects consistency more than intensity. One strong action done once means nothing if it's not repeated, but a small act done daily builds strength that cannot be shaken. Discipline is not about force, it's about repetition of truth. Each time you follow through, you reinforce your internal command. The voice inside you becomes clear. You no longer argue with yourself, you simply do. That is the mark of mastery, when action no longer requires persuasion. It is easy to speak when life feels simple. It's in the moments of challenge that your true teaching begins. When you are tired, when no one is watching, when there's no reward, your actions define who you are. If you keep your word in silence, your mind witnesses it. It learns that you do not depend on recognition. You act because it is right, not because it is seen. That is where real strength is born, in unseen discipline. Every act of honesty towards yourself builds weight inside you. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently. There is a quiet steadiness in those who live what they say. Their words carry force because their actions prove them true. You can feel it when such a person speaks. Their energy commands respect without trying. That is the kind of strength you must build within. To reach that level, you must eliminate self-deception. Do not say you will change unless you are ready to act. Do not make promises your mind knows you won't keep. Start small, but stay real. If you can only commit to one step today, take it with full presence. The goal is not to impress your mind, it is to rebuild its trust. Each kept promise repairs the cracks left by inconsistency. Each honest action strengthens the bond between your thoughts and your behavior. Once your actions begin to match your words, the noise inside you starts to fade. Doubt disappears because proof replaces it. Motivation is no longer needed because your rhythm becomes automatic. You act not because you have to, but because That is who you are now. This is the point where your mind truly respects you, when it no longer questions your direction. It follows your will because it knows your word is truth. This alignment between word and deed is not just about discipline, it is about harmony. When your words and actions move together, there is no conflict inside you. Energy flows smoothly, focus sharpens, peace grows. You stop feeling divided because you are no longer fighting your own inconsistency. You are one, in thought, in word, in movement. That unity is what gives rise to confidence, clarity, and self-command. So speak less and act more. Promise less and deliver fully. Let your behavior speak the language your words once tried to explain. Over time, you will notice something subtle yet powerful. Your mind will begin to obey you instantly. The resistance will fade. The excuses will weaken, because now it knows your words are final. It knows you mean what you say. This is how respect is built. Not through loud declarations, not through constant self-praise, but through silent consistency. Every time you do what you said you would do, you build a bridge between your intention and your reality. And one day, you will look back and realize that your actions have turned your words into truth. That is the day your mind bows in respect, not to your voice, but to your integrity. Silence reveals everything that words try to hide. In the stillness of your own mind, the truth of who you are begins to appear. The way you think in silence is the purest form of self-talk. When the world grows quiet, the voice within becomes loud. That voice can either destroy you or guide you, depending on what you have been teaching it. Silence is not empty. It carries the weight of your inner dialogue, your memories, your fears, and your discipline. The quality of your silence shows the quality of your mind. When you are alone and there is no distraction, you meet yourself fully. That is when you realize whether your silence is peaceful or poisonous. If your thoughts in silence attack you, it means your self-talk has been careless. You have allowed negativity to become your default language. But if your silence is calm, if you feel steady even when nothing is happening, it means you have trained your mind well. You have taught it to respect you even in stillness. This is the mark of true strength, the ability to be at peace with your own presence. Most people fill silence with noise because they are afraid of their own thoughts. They scroll, they talk, they distract themselves because the voice inside is too loud, too cruel, too restless. But escaping your thoughts never brings freedom. It only hides the chaos temporarily. Real peace comes when you transform the silence into something sacred. You do that by training the voice within to speak with awareness, even when no words are spoken aloud. Silence is where the mind shows its real face. It is in those moments that you discover whether your mind serves you or controls you. If your thoughts bring anxiety in stillness, you have work to do. You must begin to shape your inner dialogue so that even when nothing moves outside, there is clarity within. Teach your mind to rest. Teach it to breathe. Teach it to find strength without needing noise. You can speak powerfully all day, but what truly defines you is what you tell yourself when everything is quiet. The silent talk, the whispers of thought, the unspoken emotions, they build your foundation. If those thoughts are filled with self-doubt, the foundation weakens. If they are filled with calm awareness, it becomes unshakable. What you say to yourself in silence will echo in your actions, in your relationships, and in your purpose. To master silence is to master the mind. You must learn to observe your thoughts without becoming them. When silence comes, do not fear it. Sit with it. Listen to it. The mind will try to pull you into noise, but you stay grounded. Each time you choose stillness over reaction, you grow. Each time you resist the urge to fill silence with distractions, you sharpen your awareness. Slowly, silence becomes your teacher, not your enemy. Within silence, discipline strengthens. You start to notice the patterns that drive you, the small thoughts that create big emotions, the hidden beliefs that shape your actions. In that awareness lies freedom. You begin to guide your mind gently, replacing unnecessary noise with understanding. Instead of letting your silence be filled with worry, you fill it with intention. You begin to direct the stillness like a sculptor shaping stone. This is how inner respect grows, not through talking louder, but through listening deeper. Every day offers you moments of silence. Early in the morning, late in the night, between breaths, between thoughts. These are not empty spaces, they are opportunities. Each one is a chance to strengthen your inner voice, to remind your mind of its purpose. Use those moments to align yourself again. Speak gently inside. I am calm. I am steady. I am here. Say it without sound. Let it echo through your awareness. Over time, this practice will replace anxiety with control, noise with balance, and fear with focus. Silence also teaches humility. When you stop speaking, you begin to listen, not only to your thoughts, but to life itself. You start noticing details that were hidden behind your noise, the movement of your breath, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the subtle feeling of being alive. All of this becomes clearer in silence. It reminds you that life is not always about doing. Sometimes it is about being. To simply exist fully in this moment without trying to escape it. That is true presence. That is power. A disciplined silence builds inner strength that cannot be shaken by the outside world. When your silence is peaceful, no chaos can disturb you. When your silence is wise, no insult can touch you. When your silence is respected, your mind follows your command without resistance. You no longer need to prove your strength through words or actions. Your calmness becomes your authority. But this silence does not come easily. It must be earned. You earn it by cleaning your mind daily, by catching negative self-talk before it takes root, by replacing unnecessary reactions with awareness, by giving your mind structure even when no one is watching. Over time, this practice transforms the way you experience solitude. What once felt like emptiness becomes fullness. What once felt like loneliness becomes peace. When your silence becomes calm, your energy changes. You begin to move through life differently. Your words carry more weight because they come from a place of clarity. Your presence feels grounded because it is built upon inner stillness. You no longer react to every situation. You respond with wisdom. This is how silence trains you. It teaches you to be deliberate, not desperate. It teaches you to act from understanding, not from fear. To reach this state, make silence your daily practice. Let it become a space where you meet yourself without judgment. Each time you sit in stillness and allow your mind to breathe, you are strengthening your relationship with it. You are teaching it to find peace even when the world around you is chaotic. That is the highest form of self-control, when silence no longer feels empty, but alive. The mind that respects silence is a mind that respects its master. And when your mind respects you, your thoughts align, your actions flow, and your life becomes centered. You do not seek strength from the outside anymore because you have built it within. Silence becomes your ally, your sanctuary, your teacher. And in that sacred quiet, your true self begins to speak, calm, powerful, and free.